Hello and welcome to the Tough Cover Podcast. I am your host, as always, Mark Henry Jr., and you can follow me at Mark Henry Jr. _ on Twitter, and you can follow the podcast at Tough Cover Pod, and you can follow the Painted Lines at the Painted Lines, and please subscribe wherever you're watching this on YouTube or Twitch to the Painted Lines. On today's show, we are going to run through my picks for a day that is absolutely loaded with sports, and I'm going in the MLB and especially in the first day of the NBA playoffs. And before we get there, I just want to plug a podcast I did yesterday called The Last Resort Podcast, and you can give them a follow at resort _ podcast on Twitter. We went through the NBA playoffs and really broke down the first round matchups and our Sixers hopes and expectations. And I had a great time, and I think it's a very fun listen for any type of NBA fan, if you're a diehard or a casual or just a Sixers fan or just an NBA fan or whatever team you root for. We try to get to everyone in that podcast. So go check that out on every podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. So before we get to my picks, I have a word from our sponsors at XL Media by way of BetRivers. So check this out and hang on tight for my picks right after the break.
Hey, what's up, guys? MLB baseball is in full swing. The NBA and NHL playoffs are right around the corner, and the NFL season is mere moments away. While we here at the Painted Lines are devoted to bringing you top-notch content from all the major sports, we are excited to also now give you the opportunity to cash in on all that content and knowledge. If you follow the link below, you will have the opportunity to sign up with BetRivers, an online sportsbook, and get an instant new user deposit match of up to $250. That's free money that you can use and try to turn into more free money. Let's go. Don't sit there and waste all that money. Turn every basket into an otherwise meaningless Cavs-Timberwolves matchup on a random Wednesday in March. That makes it all the more exciting. For betting tips and advice, be sure to check out written content from our top prognosticator, Money Max, on our website at thepaintedlines.com, or check out the Tough Cover Podcast right here on the Painted Lines YouTube channel. You've seen the commercials all over TV and radio, but now is the time. Sign up today with BetRivers using the link below and start cashing in on your love for sports. Using the link below will automatically inform BetRivers that TPL sent you, and you'll get that new user deposit match of up to $250. Don't miss out on this opportunity for some free money, baby.
Don't miss out on that opportunity. Go check that out. And if you're watching on the stream, please leave some comments with your picks for the day that you're going to go put on BetRivers, or your thoughts on mine, and I'll put it up on the screen, give you my thoughts. But without any further ado, let's get ready to gamble. Full slate today. This weekend of the first round of the NBA playoffs is amongst my favorite on the sports calendar, and I think this year is going to be no different. I think it's going to be a tremendous weekend of sports, and especially of basketball. Some tremendous matchups and some tremendous opportunities to make some money in the NBA and the MLB today, in my opinion. But let's start with the tip-off of the NBA playoffs at 2 o'clock with a look at the total in Miami, Milwaukee. At 2 o'clock, I like the over 226 Heat Bucks for 3 units. The Heat have went over 226 in 9 of their last 10 games. The Bucks have also went over 226 in 9 of their last 10 games. These teams just played, and Milwaukee won 120-108, and that wasn't even a close game, and still went over. All 3 games that Milwaukee and Miami have played this season in the regular season, I know that that's different, but they have all went over this total. Both of these teams have been positive on the over this season, with Miami at 38-34 on the over and Milwaukee at 41-31 on the over. I expect a close game here in Game 1, and if you've listened to this podcast before, you know that I say close games breed overs, and I expect Game 1 to set the tone with a close game and a high-scoring matchup in the first NBA playoff game of 2021. I'm taking the over 226 in the Milwaukee Bucks-Miami Heat matchup for 3 units. At 4 o'clock, I'm switching over to the MLB, switching over to baseball a little bit for my best bet of the day. I have the Houston Astros -1.5 at the Texas Rangers for 4 units. A couple notes on this being -1.5 because I don't often do that. Out of the Astros' last 17 wins, 15 of them have covered the run line. When the Astros have been winning, they've been pouring it on. you look at their offensive statistics of their top guys, it's been absolutely phenomenal offense so far this year. So I'm willing to take the -1.5. Also, because I think the Astros have the advantage here in hitting, starting pitching, and bullpen. So I feel super comfortable rocking with the Houston Cheater Astros today. I also like that Houston is the road team here. So we are guaranteed 9 opportunities to bat. And I'd almost always rather bet a road team than a home team at -1.5. That might buck some people's opinions, but that's just how I feel about it, because sometimes you'll be up 5-2 all game. They'll score 2 runs in the top of the ninth, and you don't have an opportunity to keep scoring. So you only win by 1, and that's why I'm not a huge fan of -1.5 type bets, but I like it here today. I'm also showing a little bit of loyalty because the Astros saved me from a bad night last night. They had 1 run going into the 8th inning, but tied it up and cashed my team total over 4.5 in extra innings, even though they went on to lose on a walk-off. At first glance, it seems the Astros also struggle against Jordan Lyles, going 12 for 63 for a 190 batting average, but that's very misleading. If you look at, sometimes numbers do lie. If you look at it a little more closely, their main guys such as Jose Altuve, Kyle Tucker, Alex Bregman, Carlos Correa have all had tremendous success against Jordan Lyles. It's only Martin Maldonado and Eleutemus Diaz who drag down this batting average. Otherwise, they'd be batting 260. But the numbers don't lie on the other side. Lance McCullers has been awesome this year, and he's even better lifetime against this Rangers roster and the players on it. They bat 172 in 93 plate appearances against Lance McCullers, and everyday starters such as Adolis Garcia, Joey Gallo, Isaiah Kiner Falefa all bat 105 or below against McCullers. Shout out Pat Moran. He's the biggest Lance McCullers stan. I was going to have to do a joke there, but it would have been terrible. I love the Astros here to put a hurting on the Texas Rangers and win by multiple runs, and that is why it's my best bet on the board. So, yeah, the White Sox killed me yesterday too, man. That was my biggest baseball bet so far this season, and the triple play in the 9th inning, that was an absolute heartbreaker. You have 2 guys on with no outs, and the triple play happens. That was a killer. It was one of my most heartbreaking bets in recent memory, or in the baseball season at least, but that's why it was so huge for me for the Astros to go over that team total 4.5 and to not salvage my night, but get me back to a reasonable unit total on the night. So the Astros really helped me out, and I'm sticking with them here, staying loyal. And then at 4:30, I'm switching back to the NBA, and I'm talking about this matchup with the Dallas Mavericks and the LA Clippers. As much as I'd love to take Mavs money line or Mavs plus 5.5, I just don't know what to expect with the Mavs. I don't like their roster in terms of how they fitted around Luka, or is Kristaps a reliable number 2 option? Do they have a reliable number 3 option? Is that Tim Hardaway? I don't love how they've surrounded Luka with talent in Dallas. So I'm not confident enough to take them here. But you look at their numbers over the last month or 2 months of the season, it's been fantastic. They've been one of the best teams in basketball. So maybe they can continue that here in a matchup with the Clippers that they're familiar with after taking the Clippers 6 last year. But I expect this to go 5 or 6 games, and I expect the Clippers to take care of business. But that doesn't mean that there's not value on the over. The Mavs have went over in the last 5 games, and the Mavs games would have went over 217.5 in 7 of their last 8 games, in 11 of their last 13, and in 16 of their last 19 games. So I'm going over 217.5 in Mavs Clippers for 1 unit. The Clippers have went over in their last 2 games. However, before that, they had went under very often. So the reason this is only a 1 unit play is being a bit nervous that the Clippers will go back to their under form. If you want to take Mavs team total over 105.5 instead of the full game over, I can't blame you, but I went with the full game over for a small play just because I think it's 3 to 4 points too low. So over 217.5 Mavs Clippers for 1 unit. So that moves us back to the MLB. We're bouncing around here at 7:15 in the Phillies matchup. I hate to do this. I have the Boston Red Sox team total over 4.5 runs at the Phillies for 2 units. My first bet against the Phillies of any kind this season. Top prospect Spencer Howard on the mound in a pinch for the Phillies. I don't expect them to go past the 5th inning, so I imagine the Red Sox will get plenty of chances at the Phillies bullpen, which is extremely tired after a bullpen day yesterday. I was not impressed with Spencer Howard's stuff last year. and the Red Sox just teed off on Nola last night and eventually scored 11 runs in the game. And Nola, who obviously is much better than Spencer Howard, giving up 5 runs in 5 innings is worrisome. So the Phillies in general have given up over 4.5 runs in 4 of the last 5 games. The Red Sox have went over 4.5 runs in 7 of the last 8 games and have 3 of the top 10 RBI leaders in Major League Baseball. It feels wrong to bet against the Phillies, but this feels like a really easy bet. If it wasn't the Phillies, I think that this would be my best bet. I suggest the Red Sox money line as well, but I'm going with Red Sox team total over 4.5 runs for 2 units at the Philadelphia Phillies. So at 10:30 to finish off my night, I'm going back to the NBA, and I'm going with the Portland Trailblazers +1 at the Denver Nuggets for 2 units at 10:30 in the late game. This is a toss-up of a series in my opinion, but I'm going with guard play in the postseason. That seems to be what wins out. I think Dame and CJ will put on a show, and while Michael Porter Jr. has filled in admirably for Jamal Murray, I think Denver will be missing a third go-to scorer throughout the playoffs, and we will see why Jamal Murray was so important to that team's playoff success last season, making it to the Western Conference Finals. Denver is a great home team historically and as of late, and I don't love betting against home teams in game 1, but Portland has been excellent on the road. Portland was the second best team on the road this season, going 22-14 straight up and 23-13 against the spread. Portland scored 118.3 points per 100 possessions in those games, compared to 116 points per 100 possessions at home. The Nuggets defense got worse down the stretch, while the Blazers went from bottom 5 to 11th in the league down the stretch, in the stretch that they went 10-2 to finish the season to escape the play-in games. They had the 11th defensive rating and would have had the highest net rating in that time per NBA.com due to how insanely efficient their offense was over that stretch. Denver relies on post scoring and rebounding so much, but the Blazers out-rebounded them and outscored them in the paint in 2 of their 3 games this season. So with the massive advantage at the guard positions for Portland, without Jamal Murray, without Austin Rivers, without Will Barton, and with the ability Portland has shown to stand toe-to-toe with Denver on the interior, I think you have to feel pretty good about Portland's chances tonight and in this series in general. So I have the Portland Trailblazers +1 at the Denver Nuggets for 2 units. So stay locked to my Twitter, because that might increase. I might end up, depending on how the day goes, I might end up betting a little bit more on the Portland Trailblazers tonight. As I'm talking about it, I'm starting to talk myself into being more confident that they're going to win the series and that they're going to win tonight. So quickly going over my card. At 2 o'clock, I have over 226 in Heat Bucks for 3 units. At 4 o'clock, I have the Astros -1.5 at the Rangers for 4 units. At 4:30, I have over 217 in Mavs Clippers, or over 217.5 in Mavs Clippers for 1 unit. At 7:15, I have Red Sox team total over 4.5 at the Phillies for 2 units. And at 10:30, I have the Portland Trailblazers +1 at the Denver Nuggets for 2 units. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of the Tough Cover Click. Enjoy the NBA playoffs as we go today. Follow me at Mark Henry Jr. _ for my reactions to the NBA playoffs and to my bets that I just put out. And follow the Tough Cover Podcast at Tough Cover Pod. And follow the Painted Lines at the Painted Lines, and subscribe to wherever you're watching this on YouTube or Twitch to the Painted Lines, and enjoy the winners.